Oh, yes. This is Heidi Popp. She's coming in now. Good morning. I hope you had breakfast.
Hi. Hello. How are you?
It's 8 o'clock in the morning. You look just perfect.
The lighting. Thank you.
Is it because you're on holiday now?
I think that's it. I got some sleep, and when my alarm went off, it wasn't like, oh, big day ahead. It was like, oh, I get to tape with Isabel. So easy wake up.
Now, I have spoken to you before, but not everybody watches all these shows. So I'm just going to say a few things about you that I know, and then I might have to add some of your information in from your side. Um, so if you go and Google or use any kind of search engine for Heidi, you're going to find two sides of her, which is what's so exciting for me. I like multi-sides of humans because she takes information and experience from one side of reality and brings it into another. So Heidi has a background as an actress. You sing and dance too, don't you? You've done a lot of those too?
Nothing professional, but I
Yeah,
have
okay.
fun.
Certainly trained at least. Okay, so
Yeah.
it's very enlivening on the physicality. An actress and then working also in production with Hollywood, looking after people. But
Yes.
now, of course, she looks after her children as a beautiful mama and is a teacher. And a teacher in a very kind of special environment that Heidi is completely hands-on, creating, directing, and bringing forth the kind of paradigm of education that I know you and I love, but this expansive awareness. And because of who you are, who better to talk to about play? What play does for the human mind, for the development, for the openness. And also, I really wanted to see, because I thought this would be juicy with you, talking about how actually play is the way to connect the spirituality into the material.
Mhm.
And it's a beautiful way when you're playing, there's no money involved, strangely enough. And that's a very interesting take on forming our new earth, our new reality. So that's the framework today, Heidi, that I'm throwing
Lovely.
into your beautiful lap and what sparked off there. Was there anything that kind of got your interest first?
Absolutely. Well, I love the play aspect because that's how children learn. They learn through play, especially early childhood and really through the grades. I mean, I see after 8th grade, the academic, the study, the coursework really takes a play, but it's that early elementary grades that play is still important even for the 8th graders. My daughter's an 8th grader. Just to see her play with her friends, it's special, and I think that's when you can bring in spirit. You're being playful. But with my class, we recently, there's a small group I work with in a little drama class, and we did a little puppet show, and they were very playful about it. It was serious work. They brought characters to life, and but I noticed it was a lot of soul work coming through, and I just giving them the space to do that without a rush, without you know too many boundaries. It was therapeutic for them, and they grew as a unit. They're really close friends, I think, due to all that processing that they were doing and all that play that they were doing. And they learned a little bit more about each other. But
Yeah,
play is
because that's when that
uber
deep,
important.
if they're bringing through their soul, that deep sharing comes and the empathy
Uh-huh.
develops, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's quite, I
It's
found that one of
gentle.
the most thrilling parts of that kind of play. Let's
Yeah.
just pick up on one thing. You were saying, your daughter in the 8th grade, she likes to
Yeah.
play. But the way school is created right now, I was just listening to some of your interview with Richard Bauer talking
Oh
about
yeah.
education paradigm and
Yeah.
Robinson talking that lovely excerpt. Um, we cease to play in school. You're lucky if at
Yeah.
8th grade you're still allowed to do some playful activities, maybe in the art room. Um,
Yeah.
and I remember going to school I was a year younger than everyone else, but let's say people were 12, 13. And suddenly there was no play allowed. It was nothing. It was a
I
blank
know.
classroom. It was monotony. It was grey. The colors had all disappeared and there was no experimentation, a little bit in the science laboratory,
Hmm.
maybe a bit in the art room, but it got wiped out.
That's a shame. Yeah,
It
that
is,
is.
isn't it?
Hmm. Hmm.
And because I love to play more than anything else as an adult, that's
Yeah,
probably how I
yeah.
discover things. So, what would you say if you could, at the moment your school, your education doesn't go very old, does it? Is it to age 12?
Yes, it was eighth grade, and she's 14.
Right.
So we have a different we adhere to different ages for the grades as opposed to regular schooling. If they were in a regular school, my daughter would be almost a sophomore, and now I see her socially, and I'm like, how does that work out? Like it's like they're rushing the children now. And California, also Los Angeles, they started pushing pre-K onto the public schools. So is TK now is they're admitting like 3 and 4, and um,
Get
yes.
a
So
program
the
to
play.
learn.
I know, I know. So I know
If
we
you
talked
could,
about last time with the colors. Uh huh.
so if you could take your daughter up to, let's say 19, because 18,
Yeah.
why? Why do we stop at 18? I don't know. Let's
Yeah.
just say,
Yeah.
if you could take her education, I know you have ideas. How would you imagine, if someone's interested in math and they want to learn calculus, but I always contend you could do it through play. But just in any subject that fascinates you, can you kind of have a think out loud what you
Yeah.
might want to see, how it should work?
Yes, I actually will. I'll manifest here because unfortunately we don't have many choices here in LA. And I just took a meeting yesterday. It looks like there's going to be a group of us that are going to have to create the new. We do not have this program that I'm in that ends in eighth. We're all graduating. We're like, well, what's next? Have been protecting them from an old system that no longer works. Why would we throw them in it now for high school? And we're like, oh, they have the foundation. They're great. And here, let me forge some papers. It's like, no, no, no. I want to take this through the end. So what we're looking at is a program that they would be with those heavy classes like math and science, ones that you need a really educated instructor on. They could have that one-on-one or that classroom setting, and they can be taught these new ideas, the graduate to get the credits to graduate ideas. You get it from a professional, who is a professional in that field. And then with all the immersive hands-on, the woman I was talking with, she's like, gosh, I really want to take them to, a mechanic shop for a week, or backstage at a professional theater, and really get out in the real world, and with their own hands and with their own abilities, just try things out and learn that way. So what we're trying to think is how do we credit ourselves, like get accredited, and how do we formulate our vision for this new earth education through high school? I'm telling you, the choices are so limited, and it's not just Los Angeles; it's Southern California. There's not
It's the
many
world,
that.
Heidi. It
It's
is
the
the world.
world.
I mean,
It's the
I want to
world.
send you my ethos of that. It'll give you something
Okay.
to bounce off, hopefully be
Okay.
useful.
Yeah.
Because yeah, what do you do? It's just disgusting, isn't it? That it just stops.
Yes.
Ah, you're
Yeah.
18,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
it. Sorry, go to
Yeah.
the
And
tigers, the
yeah,
great
and then they're
tigers.
like, well, we won't. They're as much as they're craving homeschool children, because we do attend a homeschool enrichment center, but we're considered homeschoolers. As much as like university or jobs, they do now admire the homeschool journey. They just don't have the choices for us to step into. And I'm not afraid of that. I'm not afraid to co-create. And so I think that's what's going to be. I know for next year, my daughter also, she takes enrichment at a equestrian center. So she works with horses. And there's a lot of girls there that homeschool in our area. And we don't know our area that well. Where we moved, we're still in LA, but we're kind of on the outskirts. And these girls are like, oh, sure, I homeschool too. I go to this center and someone. So we're learning through community where everybody goes. And right now, for her first year, next year, it looks like we'll have to curate something, which is a class here, a class there, and it's with specialists. And then maybe something online, which she hasn't done this whole time. So I don't know how that's going to look. And truly, it's remembering the play. She loves art. She loves to express herself in that manner. So to try to figure out how to take these courses and make it tangible. I know her educator currently notices how my daughter is hands on with like testing. Like they did this anatomy block and the students were like, the testing is really, let's see what you digested. Let's not grade and compare you to anybody. We're just going to see, are you understanding the concepts? So when she was given this written test, she panicked. She froze. And my friend saw her, my educator friend, and was like, that is not her way. So she brought her in the next day before the others and gave her a skeleton and said, can you identify on the skeleton? And she was like, bam, 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 100%. And she goes, oh, and she worked with me. And she goes, this is how she is able to understand these concepts. And I'm like, well, I hope someone as gracious as you to take your time with her through high school. And that's what got us to talk. Well, I think we're going to have to figure out a new way to do something here.
I like
But
it because, of course, that way of learning is real, isn't it? If
yeah,
someone has just broken their ankle on the street and you happen to know the intricate bones and you know what not to touch when someone's oh so kindly trying to help, that's real. That's real energy of goodness in the
yeah.
world, isn't it? This is true learning rather than, writing something in a book and it floats out of your mind because it's just
Yes.
a
Yeah,
little
and not
bit
all children
wired
can
in.
do, not all children even write in their book. They're comprehending another way with their eyes closed, tap into music. Every child is doing it a different way. And the classes are smaller because the educator is working with all of them in different ways. My class is smaller than most public schools, but I do try to get that one-on-one and figure out what does this child need and adapt myself. So you can't do that to 36 kids. You keep it a
Yeah.
little small and intimate. But she involves a lot of play, and that's at 13, 14 years old. And even their last day of sessions before we went down for break, it's kickball is their latest thing. And she's talking about angles, angles and time. And I mean, you can incorporate math anywhere. And
Yeah.
she gifted the last day. They were given gifted like a 9 inning stretch, which turned into almost 2 hours. But she's like, they were fully engaged, every single student. They all had a part to play. They were also identifying the angles and the shapes and the trajectory. And it was a learning process, but they got to play. And she said that was the most engaging my class has been in a while.
And,
It's
and that will
something.
be the one she remembers the most from, of course,
Yeah.
because you've got all of the levels of the body involved, haven't you?
Yep.
When
Yep.
I was looking at paradigms for learning, it was if in the ideal world, which you are building, you would actually have a little, now you call them subdivisions, don't you, over in the States, but almost like a village concept, and you've got the mathematician and his wife living over there who's a chemist, and you've got the fashion designer and the person who creates threads or whatever. You've got all these people with their own professions, but they've come together because they have children, and
Uh-huh.
the children spend time with those adults as their
Yes.
educators. I mean, that's
Yeah.
that's real hands-on learning play. That would be a beautiful way of sort of small village that by choice I'm going to live there because there's this group of people,
Yes. Yes.
instead
And
of
it's and
going to
passion.
some other weird building which is not even equipped for experiment.
Right. And where the educators are fighting for their voices. We're trying to create a place where not only do you have to fight to be heard, but you're delivering the information with passion. And that's a totally different frequency. So when someone wants to be there and they're really, that is their subject that brings them joy, they're going to deliver it in a way that's exciting. And that's like, oh, I'm really interested in what you're doing now. We switched some of the educators this year and brought out some new coursework, even with languages, because there was a really passionate, dedicated community member who's like, I really think I can do this. And sure enough, she's delivering Spanish. And then there's a new, strings class with somebody else, a guitar specialist, but he does everything. And the kids are fully engaged. And, it's more like, it's about
Yeah,
the frequency.
synchronicity, isn't it? You're using
Yeah.
synchronicity because for some reason that group of beings attracted that guitarist and that
Yeah.
linguist. And so for the soul journey, that's where we go back into this sort of spiritual essence, that there is this sort of meeting on a realm, on another plane. But incidentally, well, naturally, all this amazing learning is happening. But that's a paradigm. if you go and tell the average person on the street, this is our new kind of school, they go, really? I don't think
Yeah.
it's going to work. So, how do you make this kind of juicy to the mental conditioned mind of, people who've gone through
Yeah.
programs and schools and spent a fortune on their degrees?
Hmm.
And you say, well, when you're playing, fiddling around with your hobby, how do you feel? How do you
Hmm.
think we make that? Because it's to do with funding in the end, isn't it? Because a
Yeah.
public school is given some money. You guys
Hmm.
have to rustle it up from all the edges to make your beautiful enrichment center. But
Yes,
that was
there
funded.
is. Well, there is tuition, but some of us are, we do fall under the umbrella of homeschool in the state of California. So we are, if you sign up for it, you can sign up through an online charter and get state funding. So each student gets almost, 3,500 a year to put towards their courses and stuff and enrichment classes. We use it for the horses and that my daughter does. And then we put some towards this enrichment center. But I work there now. So I stepped in to work there to, take a little bit off that our shoulders, and also to be with them more.
Well,
I got the gift of that.
what a
Mhm.
gift. Yes, you're such a
Yeah,
lively being from top to toe. That's what educators should be, rather than this
agreed.
very scary, monotonous sort of so-called fact regurgitator. Oh my
Yes.
God, that's death, isn't it? And
Oh
your
my
life
gosh.
itself.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. Yes. Those are waiting for 10 year. Things just aren't the same. And when you were saying the monies that go into public, the schools out here don't often see it. They go into the pockets of those at the top. They're not seeing the promised new desks or new lighting or new systems. Everything kind of goes into a fear agenda. And we have friends that are involved and children that are my son's age, who's 11, and he goes through like shooter drills, active shooter drills, and things of this nature where I'm like, I don't think we need to, fully protect our children from the world out there in that sense, but at that age, you kind of do. I mean, there's a fear element that comes in with some of the schooling now, and so it's not fun to go. It's it doesn't feel safe, not necessarily for what is happening, but the fear umbrella that they're giving it. Well, this could happen. So now we're going to take half of the day to talk about all the things that could happen.
So it's
And
not
it's like,
even
what?
just time, is it? It's not about even
Yeah,
the time, but this fear saying, you child will not know what to do if there is something unusual that happens. I
you're
watched
powerless.
just
Yeah,
yeah, for interest's sake, I just watched a movie on YouTube. I like to just sort of go through things sometimes when I'm just editing. You got to have something to kind of stimulate you in
sure.
the background, cutting things, and it was scary to see how the children were treated as idiots.
Oh, I
An idiot
know.
to be programmed, and you will
Yeah,
not in any way have any sense of what to do, how things work, to know whether something's right or wrong. And it, of course, couldn't be further from the truth, but it is so
not at
bizarre,
all.
isn't it? We've got, you with
Mhm.
your complete, who are you? Let's find out. Let's pour through your soul into this environment. Woo! And then this other end of the spectrum, where it's like closing down into some sort of small little box that we've got to fill with.
Yes, yes. It's a different spirit that walks in when we interact with those families that are friends. It's a totally kind of different engagement. In fact, it takes their child though, they're in there. That inner child is in there. And with enough time hanging out with the kids, we can pull it out. Like they start to have fun again. But other times they're just kind of glazed over, or they're used to being sedentary. Like the play, you were saying, the play has been taken out of these schools. Recess is 15 minutes. There's no physical education, there's no dance, there's no movement. And we thrive on that. That's when we feel like the education sinks in when you're really moving all the parts. And so you see the lifestyle difference. And the weird worry is we haven't seen the repercussions of that down the road yet of what this is doing.
Well, we're seeing
So,
it on health levels, aren't we, to an
oh
extent,
yeah.
medications and
Yes.
the diseases and
Yeah.
all things. So
Yeah.
let's take, because you've got so much beautiful experience and we can play with this. Let's just say there was a child who's now at your beautiful enrichment center, but they've come from that switched off paradigm of you know nothing until we put facts in your brain. You have no initiative. what's this thing called intuition? Are you nonsense? So, and then they suddenly come into your environment and through this
Hmm.
playful interaction. Can you kind of talk us through something like that, just as a beautiful example of how
Oh
someone
my
can be
goodness, yes.
awakened? Because we need this information actually on the adult planes too. It's just
Yeah.
we can talk about education and children, but actually, if we took this information and applied it to the adult world, we'd sort it all out too.
True, true. And it's funny you bring that up because I have a boy this year. He came from public school. They came from this side of medical world. He was basically full. He had to be taking something every day for a couple years. And so when he came to us, it was his first time kind of clear for a couple months. We were very much like, why are they did they come? Like why how they find us? Why'd they choose us? Because it was so polar opposite from what we are trying to put out there. And that, so we started in September and here we are December. And by October, I wanted to take meetings with the parents. I was struggling. I was thinking, well, my life would be easier if this family wasn't here. And then I'm like, wait a second, I got to take this on as a challenge. There's a challenge here. I've been presented this for a reason. I'm going to find that light. And I found out that out of the parents, one of the parents was easier to communicate with. So I stuck that route. Oh, let me go back a little bit though. So when the student joined our class, they were in awe of what was going on even the first day. They were just like, there's a lot of singing, there's a lot of joy, there's color, there's plants. They were more so stimulated in that sense. But I also knew they came from a sedentary lifestyle and they immediately started to go down on themselves because they couldn't keep up. They couldn't keep up with the kids, with the play and the running. They were not used to it. So we graced this boy very much so with the physical. When it came to the academic, then we do things differently there too. And I noticed that they were panicked. They're like, oh, I can't make beautiful page. Everything was black and white. They just wanted a pencil. They didn't like the colors that we used, and the pages we made it. They were resistant.
That's
And
so
I
important
noticed,
just to point that out, isn't it? Because I don't think that's natural. I think that's
right?
sort of because of the hive mind conditioning of what you're putting a flower in your margin. That's bizarre. Who are you? You're weird. And so then people stop and conform. So that's a nice
Yeah.
point. Mm.
So he's like watching like and then and instead of I realized his coping mechanism was and I kept saying, this will come. It will come. You can watch your neighbor, but it will come. Do your best. Show me some color on the page. And by color, he just did his pencil harder. And I was like, okay, this is a hard nut to crack. And then I noticed that one of the ways he coped or the one of the ways he dealt is he had this shock value to him. He mid lesson, and even when I'm talking about some telling a magical story, he brings up all of a sudden like why can't we have guns in school, or like really a shock value thing. I saw a horror movie and this guy chopped his head, like something so much so that the other children weren't horrified, which was he was hoping for. They were just like, why would you say something like that, she's talking. Like they were really like, hey. And he couldn't, he was like so like, wait, he's trying to find his fit.
Yeah.
But these children, without going, you're different, they were very patient. And they were like, boy, I see the difference my parents were talking about now, but they were very patient with him. What was happening with him is he wanted to be there. And I got concerned because I think the parents, they were kicked out at other places. Come to find out, they left the last school they were at. Even though he was a Medicaid child, when the curriculum shifted, they were not approving of that curriculum being forced, which was very sexualized, and it was so intense. This boy is not even, he's 10.
Mm.
They pulled out. They also said he needed an IEP, that he's spectrum. He has these disorders, which I tell you, we watch him walk the track. I know when you see a child walk, we're like, there's nothing wrong with him. He can stop having chocolate for breakfast. That might help.
Yeah, strange. Let's go to the
Yeah.
foundation.
Yeah. So I've had now 3 conversations with these parents that are getting warmer and softer, that started with defense.
Mm.
And then it just turned to, I completely understand your comfort level. And I would never force this to happen. But I did say in the end of around the Halloween, I would like to let you know the disruptive demeanor. I'm doing my best to have him settle in, but I will be only inviting him back in January. If this is not the community for you all, I'm going to have to invite you back, because I kind of had to light this little bit under them of like, it's an honor to be here and it's a privilege. And there are so many that want to take that seat, you know. I Let me preface something else too, that I feel I'm not a psychologist, I'm not a doctor, I'm not any of those things, but I'm intuitive and I'm maternal. And I noticed he had a severe disconnect at home. He was the first grandchild of everybody. They come from a culture that's very celebratory, late night treats, spoiled, and didn't have a heart connection at home, and he was craving it. So I changed my tune, I softened my vibe. I went at him a little more patient, but also I didn't stop. Every redirection he would have me with the lesson, I would bring it right back with, I know you can do this. Like I gave him just a little vote of confidence each time. Let me cut to the last week of sessions. He's running, playing soccer on the soccer field. He shows me his lunch. He's like, I didn't put all the sweets, and because everything was like packaged and sweet and all like the same color, no protein. I do little hints each day. I'm like, where's the color? Like I say that all the time to him, oh, where's the protein? Where's your energy? Like little things. And he's starting to make the changes himself. I don't even know if it's coming from the parents, but he's trying because he loves the children. He sees that he's cracking open that playful side of him that has been so pushed down for years. And the one parent is calling out to me, going, "I noticed that you guys are very holistic, and we're working very hard at a few things at home. What is your advice?" And I waited. I waited for the invitation to offer my advice, and I was just like, bam, bam, bam. I noticed that he's bringing cleaner, healthier things. He raised his hand, which was the first, and he goes, "I just want to tell everyone that I don't have caffeine anymore." The kids are before them going like, first we're horrified. We're like, "Oh wow," but they were like broke out in applause. They're like, "Good for you. You don't need it." Children are
Yeah, he's
naturally
very
buzzed.
brave, isn't he? Because you can
Very
see he's
brave.
had to find his way in a very fierce, unsupportive environment before, and the only way he would be remotely seen or heard would be to just go there,
Yeah,
stick a dagger in
that's
the
it.
middle of the space. And
Yep.
you guys are going, "Oh, we love you. We love you,"
Yeah.
even if you're not
Yeah.
saying it. And he realizes, "Oh, wow, this place feels good." And so he's got to find this sort of softer bridge. I'm sure that eventually you guys will all find a really funny way of using, like the next play you do, and there's this crazy fool. Yeah, you should play that part because you're so good at just disrupting and making everyone surprised. Yeah, So turn the thing that was
Yeah.
the
That's
aggression
right.
and the difficulty
Yeah.
into the celebratory, and then of course he learns alchemy forever
Yes.
in his
Yes.
life.
Yes, he's cracking up. He's also one of the boys that is in my small group on Thursdays, because we added Thursdays, but only 8 signed up. They were like, "Well, we're homeschoolers, true homeschoolers. We don't want to go somewhere every day." He's there. I think his parents were like, "Take him, take him." And we did through my drama class, we did created puppets, the puppet show thing. And his very black and white robot with a brain, doesn't want to talk. He just goes meet, meet, meet in Morse code. By the end of like 4 weeks, he has having conversations. He made a voice for him. He added a scarf. Like but I'm like, oh wow, even his play is black and white. But I'm saying he's cracking open because I think he trusts me, and the children are so conscious and present for the right reasons that they're supporting him now. Before they were like, like we don't know how to adapt, but also I don't think needs to be here. He doesn't want to be here. He seems upset. He seems like he's distracting because he always says, "I don't want to do the work. I don't like the work." But then I realized he doesn't know how to do the work. So we all kind of gathered around him and lifted him a bit, and he's starting to shine. So it's kind of exciting.
This
And
is
I
this
was
is
like,
really
okay,
big.
I almost
This
gave
is
up on
big.
him. I almost
Yeah,
gave
but
up on him.
you speak on a lot of people's shows, don't you? And you've got your own
Uh-huh.
2 a week. So, and you're good at presenting yourself and your ideas, and you're beautiful to watch and listen to. So this is a major bridge. from that's the transhumanist agenda, as turning us
Yes.
into a brain with a virtual reality headset,
Yep.
back into a full-souled human.
Yeah.
And you've been building the bridge. I'm getting tingles all over. You've been building the bridge yourself and the children and talking about it so that thousands of other people will feel and hear and see and
Yeah.
start to, be spurred on. And are you going to write a book at some point or not? You don't need to.
Yes,
Beautiful
I
story.
would love to. I've wanted to even before I took this journey, just for my human experience, what a ride. But with this particular one, this I think the focus the next few, I think it's going to be the high school, what that's going to look like because it's in desperate need here in LA. There's a lot of people unsubscribing from the systems. However, once you get to high school, it's like, well, we say we're sovereign, but we're going to adhere to state mandates. Like we adhere to things. We want to see paperwork. And then they're winking, like, we'll just fake it. And I'm like, but that's an energy. I'm literally faking it is still a connection and a cord and it's fake. And I go, I can't. And so you're like, well, time to create. So I think that's where I'm going to have to pen and paper it. The past
But
year
will
I
you
have,
keep,
I,
when you post your photos and you're very good at softening people's faces so we don't see the children, we just know there are bodies in the room. If you keep those photos and turn that eventually, in 3 years' time, no, no, not five, we need it in 3 years'
yeah.
time. You make a beautiful book out of these photos with a story because that's the information that
Oh
people need,
yeah.
the
Beautiful.
reality. Yeah, I think that
Yes,
would.
I'm on board. I can already see it happening. I'm more timid about the curriculum part because, as you know, it adjusts every day. I can write out the whole year, but if those children are at a different frequency that particular week, I'm going to shift. And so you kind of so what I do is I do a detail of what I intend to do for the day and where I want to take that and then it's like I clear up the notes with a different color little pencil. This is what we actually did.
Yeah.
And so I have like this duality going so far for the year. And I'm like, here's my book, here's the course. But at the same time, I don't think you can just hand it to somebody. Again, like you were saying, it takes a type of person that I really hope more people that love children that do see the mission in this. I hope more of them come online because more of me and you and us that really believe that do grace and have patience with someone that we don't think we can work with and we break through. We need more strong people like that to deliver this kind of education, I think.
So that's
Um,
when we come back to the play, isn't it?
yeah,
You're trying to work something out. You're going to try, you'll probably have one brilliant intuitive idea, but there will be some variations and then
yeah.
sort of form yourself through it and
Hmm.
discard and add to it. So, we're
Hmm.
playing as adults in that environment. Whereas,
Hmm.
teachers are taught this is what you do, which is
Right. Follow
insane
this.
because
Yeah. By this week, you're supposed to be here.
oh,
Yeah.
we're not computers,
Yeah.
we're not robots.
Yeah.
So the
Yeah.
the playful thing and all the things that I write, all my books, anything I write is always again, like you said, it's just to touch the spirit of the person to say, you could also, what about this idea? Have a little bit, it's a tantalization, a little inspiration rather than this is the method and this is so you can show what you
Yeah.
did. It would be amazing to have some pages of your curriculum with this is what I
Oh, sure.
intended to do and this is what happened and this is the reason because that's so useful for
Yeah. And
anyone.
this is the reason is the big part. And this is the reason. I love that you said that. I'm thinking of a little girl right now I should share too, because this year, due to just the circumstances of the learning center, last year I had the third graders outside. This year we went inside, same kids. So now they're fourth graders. However, the third grade that, or the second that was going into third, there was this dissolving happen. So there were like four left. And they asked if I'd take them on and do a third, fourth merge. And I did. I signed up for it. I go, sure, I can do that. I met the children and I saw the curriculum work and I go, I can repeat a few things, but my goal is to get it so we're all learning new. And anyway, there was one girl that came in and just the concept, she felt she wasn't smart enough. She was already like, Like, I can't keep up. I can't do the coursework. I can't copy these beautiful pictures down. I can't, but I see her, what beautiful work she does do on her own, like just doodling and like doing her own thing. And so when we would get to some math, because we'd throw in some of that stuff too, I made it playful. I basically, she wouldn't participate. And I made a game. There was two games, a spelling bee game, which is very teamwork, and then a math one. And it was more like, it was really because of the other students and their patience and their love of her, because she's just a bright beacon. And so when I gave these difficult things, and I could see her start to glaze over, and then I look at her and I made it quite simple enough that other children would just call out, but they were like, come on, she can do it. She can do it. And I gave it to her, and I made it playful, and I played with her, and we did this thing, clap thing, while we were doing this times table thing. And she was getting it and getting it and getting it. And every time she was getting it, her shoulders would go back and her eyes would get bigger, and she lit up. She has not reverted since. She came out of that like, I did it. I did it, everybody. Kids clapped, and she was like, I'm so smart. And I'm like,
And
you
with all
are.
her
You've always
peers,
been.
with her peers supporting her, and some
So
of them
peer
older. I mean,
supporting is huge.
that's massive, isn't it? Because that's the emotion.
Yeah.
If I go into the world and I don't know something, I could do it because I did it then. And there were people who I didn't know completely who told me I also did it. I mean, that's such
Yeah.
an important
It was so empowering.
bolster to
Yeah.
your, oh, it's so beautiful,
Yeah.
isn't it?
It's
Yeah,
so pretty. And
this is
oh
it's so
gosh.
simple yet not, because you probably had to use all your little intuitive nudges of like, well, can we
Yeah.
do here and got to hold back
I
here.
get goosebumps. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right before, a few weeks before, she was out of town for a while, and I gave them some work to do it, because they asked, yeah, you want some plain work or some fun things to put in her book. She came back. She gave me, I don't know if you saw that picture on Facebook. It was a handmade, I thought I'd have it around here. She sewed a little heart, and she put a tag, and she goes, I'm so sorry, Miss Heidi, I didn't get my work
Yes,
done.
I
And
remember liking that post.
I went to her and I go, but you did. I go, this is amazing. Look at this detail. Look at what you did. Look at how I never taught you how to do this. This is amazing. And she was just a little like, oh, okay. And I'm like, it's not about you bringing all that stuff back. It's about, what is calling to you, and handwork was calling to you. It's beautiful. And something, to be said to your audience is there's no, testing for the state or grades. There is a sense of, sure, you're ready to move on to the next level, but it's an agreement with the educator and the child. So I do get playful. My last name is Pop. So I make these pop quizzes. They call me Miss Heidi instead of Miss Pop. And immediately, some of them who have siblings, or that boy from Public was like, ugh, and I go, it's not like that. We're going to have some fun. And I took out my big green book, which they know that's where I read from at my little stand of my little lessons. And I just started from, I go, so September 9th, 2024. And they're like, hey, that was the first day of sessions. And I just reviewed, and I basically wanted them to see how much did they retain. They had so much fun. They asked for one the next day. They're like,
It's like storytelling. You're making like a drama
yeah,
class, aren't you? You're just,
yeah.
it's beautiful. Yeah.
And they retained a lot. That girl who was so like, I don't know anything. She was like, I remember that. I remember that. I go, you remembered a lot of things.
I was thinking, if you sew embroidery a heart, you're actually using mathematics, because you're using your spatial awareness and design and proportion, aren't you? And you could actually get her to assess, to analyze how much math is actually in that, which would be really funny. That's where we're not allowed to do that currently. But when we start to look at it from another angle, she thought she was just sort of doing something that wasn't quite right. But it turned out that what she did was probably, she learned possibly even more, as you said, than if she just completed the exercise. And that's the true allowing the soul to blossom and flourish. Totally different paradigm, isn't it?
Yeah. Here it comes.
I could spend all day chatting with you. I love who you are.
Thank you. I the same. Thank you so much. This is very.
This is the blessing, isn't it, of the internet? Even if they censor us to the hilt and won't,
I
All
know,
my
right?
friends, I'm sure you know it too. No one can see each other anymore. You have to go and hunt for people. But at
So
least
sad.
we found some beautiful community in that, despite
Yeah.
it, because souls and imagination are more powerful than AI.
I agree. I agree. Yep. Yep. And that's the excitement of being educators, right? We're working with children and we're like, our future is gonna, this kid's got it.
I had a conversation with two children on the bus. One was Romanian and had just learnt to speak English in the last 6 months. Amazing, amazing child,
Wow.
16, and then a really sweet girl and her more silent friend who I barely conversed with. But these two, a young Romanian boy and this English girl, they were so sweet. They were just lovely. We talked about being psychic, and because they didn't understand that I instantly knew how old they were or that he's played guitar, because I'm kind of used to knowing these things about people now, and it was like, what, are you psychic? Yeah. So we were talking, but it was so, we're told all these lies about children we don't know, that the world is falling apart and it's dreadful, but actually the soul resonance is so powerful if you just give it the space. So can I give you the floor for that last bit? Because I know that's what you do every day you go to that enrichment center. And I know it's what you do as a mama because it's who you are as a person.
I do. Well, when you speak of that fear resonance, I've been in both. I've been in those dark times and the light times, and I noticed the magic and how powerful it is to illuminate yourself at a high frequency, the manifestation that takes place, the telepathy, you're tapping into the world is at your service. Your universe is there to work with you. And when you're going dark or when you're in a fear frequency, which is so very low, it does feel like the world is against you or things are tougher than you could be right next to somebody and be experiencing the same thing, but have two totally different experiences. Like one's having a dark moment about it, one's having the light moment about it. And I think it has a lot to do with literally the frequency you're at. And that fear frequency is so low that it's like you're running in circles. And so educating children alone about frequency, like this wasn't a Christmas season, this was the season of light. That's what we celebrated in class because really all cultures and religions talk about the light within. And we did this work of do unto others and how do you shift a room, and your frequency alone is enough, and you have the power to shift it. And sometimes it doesn't take anything outside yourself other than a simple thought.
Did you
And all
even did
these
you add to it? Because I bet you did that when you're in that higher frequency, then the thoughts say you don't know something. You want to find it out. You want to work it out. When you're in that higher frequency, the ideas just fly in.
they
You
come
have
in.
casual chat, or you look at something suddenly, boom.
Trust that you'll know. Yes. And we did have this amazing block with our family tree project. And it was such a blessing because I started off with talking about, we're not doing full geography of the whole world, but we do know how expansive the world is. And I'm like, we're in the here and now, right now, we found each other. Isn't that incredible? And then we go back this lineage and go to our ancestors and go, we come from all around the world. Like just our little 19 kids, turns out we had like 54 countries we came from or something. It was beautiful. I go, and look at us here in this little classroom. We're a thread, we're an energetic cord around the whole planet. And that brings me to the ancestors. I do talk about the ancestors and calling them in for guidance and help. And I mean, that started with celebrations of Dia de los Muertos or, around Halloween time, kind of, and honoring those who crossed over in the thin veil. But really, it was this family tree project. And it was like, isn't that amazing? Like this one boy spoke, and I also had them bring their families in too. And I like have a little show and tell item. Someone brought in a Scottish kilt, and some findings of theirs. We had some Armenian hats and instruments, and all over the world we were seeing things. But the parents up there, they each had a moment with me saying, thank you. This is what we needed to bring us as a unit at the family dinner table, talking about our ancestors, people we haven't talked about in a long time. Some of them didn't even know they existed. They had to call upon someone else. So it started bridging families, just perfect for the holiday season. And
We
then they
don't even
made
have
this.
time to acknowledge it, do we? These conversations. I just met my mum just briefly recently, and I can finally talk to her because she had an entity with her for many years, and it was a
Oh,
nightmare. But now I get
oh,
in love, and I there was this conversation about her father I wanted to have, and I thought, here I am, 53 years on from her giving birth to me almost, and it's only now I want to have that conversation because we don't have the space or time to have. Let's talk about our roots, our heritage, who our great grandparents were. But that's
yeah.
true love being a soul implanted. So we get back full circle, but we're talking about play and the material knitting in the spirit into the material.
Hmm.
It's when you bring in, yes, you are a divine essence, come from somewhere, but you've come through a family lineage which has kind of roots. And let's find out what they
Roots.
are and let's bring it into
Yeah.
school. I mean, this is how we should be living. So every
Yeah.
time you shine here, Heidi, I have such a small audience, it's growing, but I can't wait for it to stretch and grow, because what you do, what I've done, I'm not working with children anymore, apart from I see children all over the place at the moment, more adults, but I want these beautiful examples, people like you, to be seen, and so that
Yay.
you are the inspiration. You are the inspiration of what we are doing, what we've got to recollect, find, and bring to the front. Thank
We
you.
do. We need to reconnect, and I'm getting that support from you. And thank you for those. And people do see me, not just the content I'm putting out, but here in the physical and the 3D. Just those little comments from parents of like, I had no idea that family tree thing would open so much old wounds, but also heal so much for them. I was thinking of something fun for them to do, like let's do this 3D project, let's. But then it turned into, I said we don't need all the stats. I go, but find the stories. What are these neat, interesting stories? Each kid was so engaged telling their stories. Like, you won't believe this. Like, my great 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 grandma was. They talked about one child talked about trafficking, and what made all our hearts go, oh, and go, but she was found a few years later, and I wouldn't be here if a family member didn't found her. Like these happy endings. And when another boy was sharing his lineage, he was shocked to see that he comes from so many countries, not just one, but every person he was talking about, there was some form of art about them. And he was done. I go, isn't that interesting? And you produce the most beautiful art, and you have such an interest in art. And they were just like, they're like, oh yeah. And so
That
it was so
rootedness,
cool.
it's at the heart of the self-esteem, isn't it? Because we have to find
Yeah.
ways in this world that says to that little boy, it's fine if you have sugar only for your lunch. We don't care enough about you that it's fine. And you say, hang on, you actually need protein for your brain and your body. So you're bringing back value to this soul. And for those little children, little beings who kind of find out their heritage and their roots and some of their genetic potential, and it boosts them. We need that because all the world keeps on saying only if you've got XYZ certificate or if someone has approved you, are you a worthwhile being? And you need that worthiness, don't you, to do something
Yeah.
new, to have the faith, to the tenacity, the
Yeah.
perseverance to keep going. So
Yeah.
it's so precious and vital.
It's so fun. I have them over break now doing their very first book report, and they get to pick their own book. And it's so less formal because I was basically saying when we come back, I really want going for the open throat chakra. I want them all to trust their voice and trust their knowledge, even if it's different from somebody else. So they're picking their own book at home. It's not assigned to them. And they're going to tell us about their favorite book, show us some drawings, act out a scene, let's just have this book circle. And they got excited. It wasn't like a grading thing, but it also was more like, that's work I can do over a break because they were very concerned. They're like, I'm going to be so busy. I don't have time to do anything. I go, well, let's make something fun. You all read a little bit every day, right? And so for a holiday gift, I gave them a beautiful little leather heart bookmark, and then this rainbow pencil. I go right, and on my little tag, it was for each of them something sweet about each of them that I see in them, but also like I'd love to hear your thoughts more. And here's a rainbow pencil. Have fun sharing your thoughts in a little book. But it's the intent is to have fun while they are learning. The
If you give
play
some of
comes
them
through
the
the learning.
option, you could give some of them the option to extract dialogue from their books, because some of the most amazing I've seen some incredible performances from, a lot of the children I teach, but they were finishing with me age 13, and just, when you get the spine tingle through the entire body because their performance is so good, and
Yeah.
it's from a character that we've chosen together and adapted into a monologue from a book that they've loved, and it's transformed and opened them into courage, or sticking up for someone, deep compassion, whatever it is that attracted their soul. And to see them then perform that in front of an audience, some of those children, you absolutely embodying the role, feeling the feedback come from the audience, and they've just opened up a whole kind of new fountain from their own spiritual adventure just from that one
Yes.
exercise. Oh,
Yes. This kind of education, I'm seeing my daughter's peers in 8th grade. They're creating the humans that I think this world is craving. These children with independent thought and with a drive. The will and the drive of a child is protected. And I think that's just too exciting. It's exciting because you brought up something that was special, because I think these lessons, it's not like we have to learn this concept of math. A lot of the lessons have these beautiful morals and emotions behind them, gratitude, receiving it with, grace, compassion, empathy, all these really sweet bits that can be playful. I don't know if you saw too online on Halloween, I came in as this witchy witch, and they're like, "Where's Miss Heidi?" I'm like, "I'm Miss Heidi's aunt from another dimension," but I used a very English accent. Like, I had so much fun. And I used math. They made their own potions and measured and did all this, but the menu for their potions it was the emotional potions, or potions of the emotional kind, passionate potion, something. And it was like empathy and gratitude, and they got to pick their thing and put it together, and it was sweet. It's like a ways to
when they
insert
drank
human
it,
nature.
did they
Well,
have
they
to
didn't drink it.
become,
It was more like
or pretend they drank it? Did they?
you
Because they could have then pretended that now I've got
oh
my,
yeah.
I don't know, inspiration with a touch of passion, and then they would be like that for the rest
Then
of
they
the
act
day.
that, yeah.
That's next
Yes,
year.
some of them totally did, and others I saw them at the pickup give them to their parents. Like, you need this.
Yeah, yeah,
I
because
was
they're
like,
medicine,
good
they're
one.
healers. They're healers already.
They're
That's also what
healers.
they're not allowed to be in that weird world, the transhumanist agenda. But in reality, oh, some of those small people.
Yeah,
Mm.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's so special. The play is when, the more animated I get with my storytelling, or come up with these fun ideas like the potions, the more engaged they are. So it's like, duh, it's a win-win. You get more playful, you make it more exciting for them. They're going to be there. They're present. They are paying attention, and they want to digest information. If
You
you're
can
just
even add
regurgitating at the board,
you
if
can
you're
add a trick.
regurgitating, they're like shut down.
No, they're totally dead, aren't they? But you could even add a trick that the beakers, some of them are in metric and some of them are in proper
Oh,
American ounces, so that they have to cooperate and work it out. So they're actually doing math at the same time. That's part of the
yes.
prepared environment, where you're just adding another level of challenge so that
I
they're
love
learning
that.
without even realizing it, which is kind of sneaky fun. And you can
I know
tell them
that's a sneaky.
afterwards, did you know what else we learned this week?
That's my funnest bit. Every week I do a newsletter for the parents, and it's just, I'm like, oh yeah, we did a lot this week. I could just hear my thoughts, and then I'm like, wow, I'd like to be in my class. But it does show, the parents are like, okay, yeah, this isn't just a side enrichment class for our homeschool life. Like, this is a full educational program. Like it's almost like you're getting your full schooling here. What are you going to feel what for fun the rest of the time? Because we
But
are covering a lot.
that's the irony, isn't it? And you could even stay at home if you had a parent like you, and learn everything in the home just from doing normal things. If you
Hmm.
do it with that creativity. So normal stuff plus creativity equals learning. I mean,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
even more fun when you've got lots of kids together doing things.
That's the fun part. And I know I've heard from not necessarily my parents, but I know the general feeling is, well, I don't have time for that. I have to work. And I see that and then I get to the that particular route. I go, do you? Because that income is going to be cut in half by paying for these kinds of programs, sending your child, and then what you have left, like, isn't isn't it priceless to spend time with your child in those childhood years? That you can't put a dollar on that.
But
So
this
if you
is the
don't eat
thing.
out for a little while, that's
To
might
try and
be a
get that
win-win.
bridge to bring that
Yeah,
information across is tricky. I just created my
it's
course with
tricky.
Nostic called Living as Medicine, and it's all about
Mhm.
that. So
Okay.
you could do these, you could make these things, you could experience things, you could grow things, you could repair things, so that okay, even if you keep earning the same amount of money in your job, then you can go on holidays or adventures instead. It's just about understanding where the true value is because we've been so
Yes.
indoctrinated and we've got
Yes.
to hunt, find, and identify what value is. I think that's at the core of
Yes.
new education, isn't it?
I absolutely and I see like the the difference. You go to a certain public education, you go, oh wow, look at this young teacher fresh with her degree and da, da, da. But she has been told to follow a way of doing things. Even maybe if her intuitively she's like, this doesn't feel right, she is following a program to put in the box. You get someone, an elder who has life experience, who's like, I have all the time in the world to devote all my energy to children. It's a totally different delivery of information. I'm not to just talk about the age part, but I've noticed that in schools, those are the educators they want filling the classrooms, ones that, are young and eager, want to be told what to do versus the ones who, it doesn't matter the age, that not necessarily want to be told what to do, but say, I have so much to give. I have so much to offer, so much knowledge, and I can take this one little photo right here and turn it into a 2-hour lesson. Like there's just a difference of characters of people that want to be educators. So parents have this mindset, well, if I go to this brick and mortar place, put you in this room, drop you off at this time and pick you up so I can go have a life, it's not aligning anymore because you don't know what's going on in that room. And yeah, there's a lot of things I threw out there.
Yeah, but and every one we could have gone into.
Yeah.
I just it made me think of the little boy with his black and white again, using his formula and not able yet to open and expand into freedom and imagination. Um, so let's just find one last kind of message because some
Yeah.
people are still buying presents for their children for this Christmas holiday season. And
Mhm.
we've talked about play and we've talked about spiritual connection and motivation through imagination and trusting your intuition and all of these levels involved. So, what could we say to build these kind of bridges from I'm going to buy you a great big plastic something or other that's cost $500, or I'm going to do something that's truly aligned with your spirit and will enable it to blossom?
Mm.
That's the present.
Mm.
So can you,
Yeah.
your
You
last,
mean,
if you can find a last
yes.
statement about this, the buying the present, the experience of the toys and the play that we associate with Christmas, how
Yes,
do we
yes.
do it differently?
If it's still a gifting, I would, yes, align with their passion and their skills. If it's an instrument, if you're still wanting to give a gift, make it a gift, have them do something with it, not put the board together and play a plastic game and then it's over in 20 minutes. Like make something expand on what they already are good at. The my daughter one year, I just happened to tell all my relatives, I'm like, she's getting really into art, she's really good everyone sent her like notebooks and pencils and pens and like create. And my little guy, really has a passion for guitar, and he went from cello to guitar. So invested in a guitar. It's a very special gift, and he really takes care of it. Um, I do gift at the holiday. I love it. But the thing is, it's under that premise. Is this going to allow for growth? I have to be cognizant because they're kind of waking up. So, but I'll tell you this with my class, the
Yeah.
whole season, it was about the passion of the grace of receiving, being receiving a gift. We did a secret Santa, and it was all about receiving with grace, but the season is of gifting. So every day we were creating something for someone else, and it sparked something in them. It made them ask more questions about what can I do instead of I want to get. I want this. I need this. I got to get this. I can't wait to get it. It was more like
How
there.
important. What can I do?
Yeah.
What can I do for the
What
world?
can I
What can
do?
my
Yeah.
soul that I'm here for this purpose, this moment in time, how can I bring myself to help into
Yeah.
this world? This is what we're going to.
Yeah.
Oh, beautiful.
And so in class, it was all about gifting for the parents, gifting for the other classmates, gifting, and they're so excited about it and getting into it. But I did have a fun conversation with a parent after classes one day, and she was checking in on her child and asking about holidays and gifting and stuff. And she didn't know what route to go. And I go, does she have her own like private space, like a private space where she can just belt out? Because she's very quiet in class, but I see her, she's beautiful voice. And she goes, well, kind of, she kind of does. I go, what about a microphone? Like a microphone and like a speed, like let her belt it out once in a while, like get her to like, ah. It turns out is we weren't done with sessions, and we come back the next week. She was so inspired, she did it that weekend, so it wasn't like a Christmas gift. But she goes, she was in her room for hours, and she goes, and we didn't tell her we could hear her because they could hear, but she was in her room for hours. I go, I'm so glad you didn't tell her that you could hear her because just you don't want to shoot it down so quick. You don't know what you can trigger. But I go, I will tell you this. I didn't know that until the end of the day on Monday, and I told the parent, I will tell you this. She had a strong voice in class today. She participated more, and she had more ideas to offer. A little bit of a follower. She's stepping into leadership. And the mom was just like, oh my God. And I'm like, you could do, this is so beautiful. And
This
so
is
she was inspired.
the bringing in the inspiration when you're high vibed, isn't it? That we talked about. There it was,
Yeah,
the little whisper. The mother was able to fulfill it. The
she
girl went and
received
did
it.
her work, and then there she was in her brilliance.
Yeah.
Ah,
Yeah.
perfect.
The mom was like, oh no, what do I do for Christmas? And I'm like, what about tape recorder?
Or
Or
hire
take her
her a
to a
space.
show.
Yeah,
Yeah.
give her a hall for a day, and
Yeah.
everything be
Yeah.
recorded. That would be amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. Goes to a show.
I'll
Yeah.
never
So
forget
many,
this little
so many
kid
things.
who went. I used to play with this crazy free jazz band in Berlin. They kind of trained me for the stage. It was a nightmare, really. The band was doing all kinds of nuts, and I was supposed to create songs over the top. But one pre-rehearsal, there was this little child, one of the children of the members, band members, and he was 6, and he went up to the stage, which was empty, just set up, and there was a microphone, and he just started speaking his name into this microphone quite quietly to start with, and then loudly and fully. And I was just chilling all over because it was though he was calling his soul in.
Oh,
It
that's
was,
so
yeah,
sweet.
these
That's
things are powerful.
beautiful. I
Yeah.
love that. It's beautiful. Super quick. I know you're whining, but regarding the gifting is for their birthday celebration. I do give them an offering, and I got these two clever little puzzles. One has all these beads, and they have to practice, mindful meditation really to get them all in their position. And the other is metal, but with a ring around it, and you have to try to figure it out. And it's very complex. But the parents were like, those are really clever. Where'd you find those? And I go, they make big ones, they make small ones. I go, I just wanted a gift that's not going to get old. That's not like I did that so many times, I'm sick of it. It's a challenge every time. And that's something important parents can look at for their gifting. Is this going to engage my child more than just, a 2D stimulation? Is this engaging their whole body? Do they engage all their muscles, their brain, their eyes, the hand-eye coordination? You don't have to look too far for education toys, because usually the most simplest ones are the best ones, just a balance board, just the simple as can be.
Pair of
And
pliers, but beware, you know.
pair, yeah. Yeah, one of my moms said when her child, they did a birthday celebration, the parents come in and share something about their child. And she goes, he was so interested in taking things apart when he was a baby that for his, or in a toddler. So it was like his third or fourth birthday. She just told everyone, just give him your old stuff, like an old toaster, an old thing. He got a windfall of all this old stuff. He was busy for weeks just taking things apart, putting them back together. And he got a screwdriver from his parents, just a screwdriver. It's like, have at it. But use this stuff, not our stuff.
And it's not plugged in.
Hours. And sure enough, that little boy is just a little engineer in class. Like, he is smart as a tack, but also so engaged in everything that comes in front of him. Like, how does this work? When I gave him those puzzles for his birthday, he was just like, he was so into it. He was engrossed.
It's just because you notice, isn't it? You're studying, you are seeing, hearing, and feeling those people because
Yeah.
you are hearing, seeing, and feeling yourself. That's
Yeah.
because you're so incarnated, Heidi, and that's why you're such a blessing and a blossom. Because of
Thank
that,
you.
you can see the others. So this is the knock-on
Yes.
effect of being
Yeah.
well. Thank
Yeah.
you so much. Will you
Yeah.
come back again sometime soon?
Absolutely. Honored to. Yes. Thank you so very much. It's
Oh,
it's
I
always a
love
treat.
hearing
I love
you.
your posts. I love your stuff. I'm just so happy for you. It's just, and I love this to be able to connect across the pond. I think that's so sweet.
One
So,
day I hope maybe we can get you. I'm supposed to be setting up the Gnostic University. So that's still in
wow,
the works, but
beautiful.
getting people
Cool.
like you, so that
Awesome.
other people can take your course. They just read your book and study your material, and they'll take 12 different courses, and then they can go and start working as an educator.
Wow.
So yeah, that's
Amazing.
like a long-term thing that we're going to start
That's what you
working.
were sending on the other. That's right. I think I was so engrossed in the class. It was, I saw it and I was like, oh gosh, overwhelming. I got to go over here.
Yeah, that's
Now I'm like, oh, it's exciting.
start
Okay.
with little pieces, and then
Little
collect
bits.
these wonderful beings. So thank you so
Okay.
much, and
Thank
have
you.
some beautiful
Thank you.
days of
Thank you.
slightly more relaxed
Thank you.
creativity, play.
Yeah. Play for
Love you
sure.
so much.
Thank you so much.
Heidi, bye bye.